May you be well in the Dhamma, dear friends. Today I'm here to share the essence of the Buddha's teaching, which is about the path to liberation, about awakening the mind and seeing the nature of mental formations. When the mind awakens and sees mental formations, it understands that these formations are merely ripples of the clear, pure emptiness of the mind. These ripples are not the mind itself. The words I speak are not the mind. The thoughts arising now are not the mind. The emotions that appear are not the mind. Even the perceptions arising now are not the mind. In the end, there is nothing that is us or ours. The question is, where are we? Let the mind answer. If we can see that there is nothing that belongs to us, we will have insight into the mind. We will understand that our mind is the element of Dhamma, the fundamental element of all phenomena. It is the element from which both the mental and physical elements arise. Our mind is an empty, pure, clear essence that exists before all things. The mental element arises from this clear, pure emptiness. The physical element arises from the mental element. We need not fear that if we do not cling to thoughts, emotions, or perceptions, or if we stop clinging to this body, we will be left with nothing. The absence of us, the state of being nothing, the state of non-attachment, the emptiness free from all fabrication, this natural pure emptiness, which has been obscured for so long by the power of mental fabrications and the mental element, will reveal the truth to us. We will immediately become the original Dhamma element, the mind, along with the wisdom that understands that all the mental fabrications that ripple constantly are not things with true self-existence. They are simply natural processes existing as they are. How did we come to foolishly attach to them? This is the path to liberation that already exists in our mind. It is not outside the mind. We only need to stop relying on and clinging to the mental elements. The mental elements create the physical elements. They tell us we have a body. We use these words to say we have a body, to claim ownership of the physical world. These words create all the stories and fabrications, leading us into suffering with this mental element. We do not realize that we are clinging to this mental element. Thus, the Dhamma is about understanding the mind that is all. This is the practice of Buddhism. No matter what method we use, the key is to understand the mind, to see that our mind is a pure, empty, clear element. It is like a ball of very pure energy. It has no shape. It does not come. It does not go. It is neither born nor dies. It is neither dark nor light. It merges with all things. Our mind has no merit or demerit, no good or bad, no wholesome or unwholesome actions that we accumulate in this world. That is the flow of attachment to the mental elements, the attachment to the physical elements. This is called sending the mind outward in search of external Dhamma, believing that Dhamma exists in scriptures. We believe that the scriptures have substance, and we think that we must take the body to practice. We believe that the body exists as something real. We think we must sit or walk in a quiet place in the forest. We believe that the person who sits the longest is the winner. The one who walks the longest is the winner. We think we must quiet the mind. Do you know that you are constantly clinging to the mental elements? Do you know that everything in this world has no true self or existence? There is nothing that is ours. Why does the Buddha emphasize this so much, that there is nothing that belongs to us, nothing that is truly us? Why? Because he realized that we are Dhamma elements. We are the essence of Nirvana, the pure, empty, clear element. It is as though we are made of a pure, clear energy, and this energy creates all things. Do we understand this? We need not fear that if we do not use the body for practice, we will not attain enlightenment. Let us remember that the Buddha, each time he taught, said, "Whoever inclines their mind, whenever the mind accepts that there is nothing that belongs to us," he spoke these words at that moment. Why? Because our mind lacks the wisdom that would allow it to understand that it is merely a clear, empty, pure element. The Buddha did not tell us to do anything specific. He pointed out that the 5 aggregates are impermanent, that the body is impermanent. The body is simple. Don't focus too much on it. The physical element exists because the mental element has named it, created meaning for it. This body, our left arm, our right arm, the sound we hear, these are mental elements. They shape and give meaning to the idea that we have a body. Now let's look deeper. If we don't see that it is this very sound that labels the body or physical form, this sound is a mental element. Where does this sound come from? If we trace it back, we see that this sound originates from the clear, pure emptiness of the mind. And if we look deeper, we ask, is the mind that knows this truly the mind? What knows this is simply the mind creating the label that it knows. In truth, the knowing is just an inherent function of the mind itself. There is no owner of this knowing. The knowing is simply a natural function of the mind, a response to any impression that arises, so that it can learn and understand. If the mind did not create the awareness, did not create the mental fabrications, it would not be able to understand that it is a pure, empty, clear element. Imagine there is a pure element, a ball of clear energy, completely unified with the entire universe. This pure energy has no separation. It is one with the vast emptiness of the universe, and it does not create any fabrications. It does not move, it does not come or go. It is neither born nor dies, neither dark nor light. It is nothing at all pure and true, yet it is also the element of life. Our mind is the element of life. If we were to take the mind away from the body would stop functioning immediately. Immediately. Wherever the mind goes, life arises, because the mind is the element of life. Now, this life element, which is pure, empty, and clear, cannot know anything unless it creates a thin, clear veil around itself. Let me explain it in this way so we can understand easily. This is called ignorance, avidya, the mist of ignorance. The mind, in its desire to learn, creates this thin veil of ignorance. The term ignorance means that this pure element does not know it is a pure, empty, clear element. In order to know what it is, it has to create a thin, clear veil around itself. When something comes into contact with it, the clarity passes through this veil and the mind immediately reacts. It is stirred, and that stirring turns into thoughts. The sound I'm speaking right now immediately creates a mental image. It stirs up an emotion. When it stirs into a mental formation, we call it citta sankhara. It is the agitation or formation of the mind. We can call it dukkha sakha, the truth of suffering. These phenomena are indeed the truth of suffering. They should be understood as such. The Buddha said that suffering should be acknowledged, recognizing these states as suffering. This is the foundation of mindfulness. It is the path, the one-pointed path. When we awaken to these mental formations, it becomes clear that this sound is not us. That's it, simple as that. If you don't understand, you need to listen more. Those with wisdom, a small group of people, can listen for just a minute and understand immediately. Dhamma is simple. Dhamma is about the mind and mental formations. The mind is an empty, clear, pure element, and it creates a thin, clear layer around itself in order to perceive, which then stirs up mental formations. Citta sankhara is merely a function of the mind, not the mind itself. That's it, finished. As long as the mind does not foolishly attach to citta sankhara, it will return to its true nature, pure and clear, as it originally was. There is no need for the mind to rely on this thin layer of formation. Why rely on it? Because once we understand that this mental agitation is not us, it becomes clear. When we understand this, the mind returns to its original pure, empty nature, knowing that mental formations or mental elements are not us. So why rely on them? The sound I'm speaking, can you see that it's not really sound? Why rely on it? This sound is not sound anymore, and there is no one speaking. Can you see that? Once you see it, tears will fall and it will be finished. Dhamma is about pointing this out to you. This is called listening to the Dhamma that leads to realization. Remember, there are 5 methods to realize the Dhamma. The highest method is listening to the Dhamma, but the one who teaches must be outstanding, possessing miraculous power, capable of explaining the mind clearly. The teaching must be clear and precise. When we understand, the mind accepts it instantly. Pay close attention. Once you hear it, it will feel light, easy. It's the kind of knowledge you've never heard before on this earth. It's like you've understood all the teachings in the world. We've practiced Dhamma our whole lives. We know it all. We've practiced generosity, virtue, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. These are the fundamental principles we already know well. But what happened? Have we attained realization? Haven't we already learned everything? We know how to practice the Dhamma to attain enlightenment, right? We know what an arahant is like, what the tendencies of an arahant are. We know how to progress from Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami to Arahant. We know all of that, don't we? So what's happening now? Have we completed our practice? Can we declare with full certainty that the mind is not born? Proclaim with your whole heart. Why hesitate if you're uncertain? Haven't you already understood it all? We pride ourselves on memorization and thought, but Dharma transcends both memory and thinking. The Dharma is about awareness, knowing that what we know is known by no one, and that there is nothing there to be known. Do we understand that realizing Dhamma is very easy? We just need to wish to realize it, and then we will. The issue is, do we truly wish for it? It's a simple question. Even a child can answer it. Can adults compete with children on this? It's a simple question. Do you wish to realize the Dhamma now? Do you want to? Do you understand what realization of Dhamma is? It is to see that the five aggregates are not us. This body, this mind, none of it is us. It means that there is nothing that is us at all, and we have never been born into this world. Now, can you accept this? Some people can't accept it. They want to realize Dhamma, but they still want to have an I, a self. Is that possible? Do we understand the word anatta yet? It's not about atta. The practice of Dhamma is to see anatta, not to see atta. Whether we practice or not, atta is already fully present in our hearts. These are the people of the fourth lotus group. They care only about atta and identity. They want to have a self, to have fame, wealth, and happiness. They want happiness. They practice everything just to feel happy. The longer they can meditate, the happier they feel. This is the fourth group of lotuses, people who cling to identity. Whether they care about anatta or not, they don't care. The Buddha teaches us to see anatta, not atta. But I won't say they're in the fourth group. Let's just say they're in the eighth group. That feels more fitting. The eighth group of lotuses also likes things that involve atta. They want to sit longer and longer, thinking that by sitting longer they'll feel happiness. They want to sit long to find inner peace. This is atta. Can you see that? It's atta. There is a self-acting, doing something and receiving something in return. We gain peace because we believe peace has an inherent self. Right now we're gaining peace and we're happy. There is a self receiving happiness too. For those still caught up in these kinds of ideas, I suggest you go take a bath and then come back to listen to my Dhamma. Let go of what you've done your whole life. If it were right, you would have already attained realization long ago. You'd be done with the Dhamma already. But here you are, still listening to the Dhamma, still struggling to find it, still doubtful. Those who don't grasp the essence of the teachings tend to rely on sitting quietly, eyes closed, finding peace. When they get sick, they use meditation. When the body is about to decay, they meditate. Why? Because they are afraid. I want to tell you something, to give you some wisdom. Dhamma is about wisdom, not about tranquility or concentration. We don't need Buddhism for this. People everywhere want to practice concentration. Every religion teaches concentration. There's no need for Buddhism. Do you know what? Buddhism is about wisdom. It's about understanding the truth, seeing things as they truly are. What is the truth? The truth is seeing that everything is anatta, there is no self. Can you see the truth? Now, can you see that everything is anatta? This is the truth. The Buddha realized the truth. He saw that all phenomena, both form and mental phenomena, are anatta. The Buddha realized that everything has no self. There is nothing that is us or ours. And those who sit with their eyes closed, so peaceful, so calm, do you know what that is? The peace they feel is just a mental state. Are you aware that you're caught up in your emotions? Perhaps you don't realize. Those who lack wisdom because they don't have a teacher, a master, or a wise person to guide them, everyone without wisdom falls into this category. If they had wisdom, they would have already attained realization, wouldn't they? Let me give an example. There are people who lack wisdom. They don't like wisdom either. They prefer to use force, to use the body. They like to use their strength for everything, not their mind. They don't like to use wisdom. True wisdom, however, is when the mind understands the truth. But let me speak about wisdom in a worldly way for now. This story is about a creature, we can call it a two-legged animal. This two-legged creature prefers to use its body. It doesn't like to use wisdom, prefers to use physical strength. Whether in a village, a forest, or a town, it's the same. It has no teacher with wisdom to guide them. They seek liberation from suffering, but there is no wise teacher to show them the way. They search for a teacher but only find ones who teach them to rely on physical strength. They are told, practice and you'll understand. Meditate more, walk more, sit more, and you'll understand. These teachers don't teach wisdom. They simply say, keep practicing, keep using your body, and it will come to you. In this story, there are many people who wish to attain Dhamma. They rely solely on their bodies. So they go into the forest, seek solitude, and endure various trials, being attacked by tigers, bitten by snakes, catching fevers, fainting, and so on. Very few survive. They believe that Dhamma is in the forest, and they believe that to gain wisdom they must use their bodies. Because they have no teacher, they rely on this way. Do we understand? Without a teacher, they have no other choice but to practice like this. Find a quiet place, sit quietly, and practice stillness. This is called concentration. Actually, concentration means steadiness. It doesn't mean silence or stillness. Concentration means the mind is steady. Right now we are concentrating as we listen to Dhamma. This is concentration. When we are writing, we are concentrating. When we are memorizing something, we are concentrating. Concentration is just the mind being focused on something. That's it. There's no more to it than that. In truth, let's not even call it concentration. Let's just focus on truly understanding. It's simple. Now those who still don't grasp anything, they stay in the forest. They practice walking. When there's nothing else to do, they walk back and forth. They walk to find peace. They sit still to find peace. But peace is not concentration. Peace is a mental state, a fabrication of the mind. Can humans understand this? Can they? Let me explain again so we can understand. Do we know that this body is not us? Let's say that the element of form is not us. If we eliminate the element of form, what remains is the element of mind. If we eliminate the element of mind, what remains? Only the mind, which is a pure empty element free of all fabrication. It is clear and pure. This element has no defilement. It is so pure, it merges with all things. The practice of Dhamma is to recognize that we are this pure empty element. That's it. Understand this and it's done. Now, this pure clear element still has ignorance within it. While we are in deep sleep, everything is cut off. Both the element of form and the element of mind are absent. At that moment, only the mind remains, which is a pure, empty, clear element. However, it still lacks wisdom. It doesn't yet know that it is this pure element. Because no one has come to teach it, it cannot understand itself. That's why it must wait for the Buddha, for the wise teacher to come and teach. In truth, the Buddha explains it clearly so that we can understand and attain realization right then and there. It's really that simple. There's nothing more to it. Now this pure element has created the element of mind, which is like the mist that surrounds the world. The mist that envelops the world is the element of mind. Without this mist, we would see everything clearly, the entire universe, everything would be visible, all would be clear. But because there is the mist, like the atmosphere surrounding the world, when the atmosphere moves, winds, storms, dust, tornadoes, hurricanes, and rain occur. They cover the world, preventing us from seeing what's outside. This is the natural state of the element of mind. It's a covering, a veil over the mind to support the mind's functioning. Now the mind relies on these things called tools. The mind relies on 4 tools, to give an analogy. I don't want to speak about memory or knowing for now. Let's leave that aside. The mind relies on the element of mind, and it has 4 aspects. The knowing element, the sound element, the thought element, and the emotional element. Sound is the voice I am speaking now. This is thought. The mind relies on 4 tools. The knowing element, the hearing element, the thought element, and the emotional element. Right now we are hearing my voice. Can you hear it? It knows it on its own. Can you see that? Where are we? Let the mind answer and complete the question. The Dharma is just this. Those with the highest readiness grasped this long ago and finished their journey. No need for complexity. Dharma is simple. If you know that what you know is not self, then where are you? When the mind answers, there is no self. That's it. Complete. Let the mind accept this truth. The moment mind accepts this Dharma, enlightened awareness pulls free from mental formations. Light blazes forth, tears flow with reverent joy. Now the mind uses tools, which are the knowing element, the sound element, the thought element, and the emotional element. Sound is the speech we use every day. This is the thought we speak in our minds constantly, all day and night. The mind speaks continuously at every moment. If it doesn't speak, we wouldn't be able to understand anything. But when we rely on it, we become attached to it. In truth, this sound speaks on its own. It's not about us. This sound has no self in it, but we mistakenly believe in it and cling to it. What can we say about this? Perhaps we can call it the realm of worldly beings. Should we call it a lotus of the 8th group? Now, the mind also relies on mental images. Even though mental images are their own thing, every time we think about something, an image arises with it. This is the nature of the mind. It uses the third tool, which is the emotional element. Every time things go as thought or imagined, the mind generates the emotion of liking, which is happiness. When things don't go as imagined, it generates the emotion of disliking, which is suffering. Sometimes it's neutral and sometimes it's a peaceful emotion. Do we know that peace is not an emotion? Do we understand? All phenomena are mental elements. We don't even need to talk about the elements of form. The elements of form are two cores. The element of form exists because of the element of mind. It's because of this sound that says it exists that it comes into being. All forms arise from the element of mind. It's simple. Understand this and you'll be done. We are dragged along by our thoughts. We as ourselves flow and attach to the sound, flow and attach to the mental images, flow and attach to emotions. We believe that these things have a self, an identity. Now, returning to the story, it should have ended long ago. Dhamma is this simple. The pure element only gets caught in the tools it relies on. If we can understand that these tools are not us, it's over. They are not the mind. Once you understand this, it's finished. The mind won't accept it though. Now, the story continues. It turns out that in the forest, without doing anything, the mind seeks peace. It wants to possess peace, just like the ascetics or the Brahmins in ancient times, before the advent of Buddhism. They didn't need Buddhism. The world at that time wanted peace, so they created Brahmanism. It was all about sitting still and practicing, growing long beards and hair, living with peace, sitting to be at peace, walking to be at peace, doing anything to achieve peace of mind. But this is not Buddhism. Even if the Buddha had not appeared, the world would still be practicing these things. Why? Because the mind is composed of ignorance, of not knowing. It gets lost in the tools, using the body to practice in order to gain peace. But peace is an emotion relying on sound. Let me give you an analogy. I am someone from ancient times, a sage, one of the Brahmins. I have this feeling of being tired. Life is full of hardship and poverty in our land. So I think let's go to the forest. Right now I'm thinking and I'm relying on this sound, mumbling to myself. So I said to myself, I'm so tired of this world. There's only poverty and hardship in our land. Sigh. Let's go to the forest. Better to practice austerities. At least I'll find peace and finally be free from all troubles. They say if you find tranquility, it leads to wisdom and enlightenment. Maybe I should go into the forest, leave everything behind, take nothing with me, eat whatever comes my way. If I have no greed or desires left, then I can live in the forest, eating little, taking whatever comes. I'll walk and sit just to attain this tranquility. I must achieve this. You know what? Right now I'm just muttering to myself, playing with thoughts. I don't even realize that my true self is mind, which is empty space, pure and pristine. Right now my mind is lost, dwelling in mental formations. Right now my mind is lost, dwelling in mental formations. That's why I'm just talking to myself like this. I'm really tired of everything. Let's escape this world. I'll find a quiet place, leave everything behind. I don't want anything anymore, just take my clothes and that's it. I'll live like this. Whatever happens, happens. I'll gather vegetables, pick fruit and eat them. I won't have anything to do with the world anymore. I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. But right now I realize I'm just thinking by myself. If I knew that I'm speaking and that this sound isn't really me, that this sound has no self, if I realized that the sound I'm making has no owner, no self, if I could see that right then, a moment of enlightenment would arise and the Buddha nature would shine forth. But unfortunately I'm foolish. I was foolish in those days. At that time I wasn't sure if it could even be called a religion, but I considered myself a hermit, an ascetic. People were talking about how some could sit for long periods, remaining so peaceful, not eating food or fish. I became fascinated by it. Everyone was excited to sit quietly in the forest or mountains. Whoever could sit the longest was considered the winner. I thought the same way. I liked thinking, and I thought to myself, they leave behind everything, the hardships, the duties, and go into the forest to be with peace, and they no longer suffer. Not eating food or fish was great. I thought, I'll go practice meditation to find true peace. But really, I just wanted the peaceful feeling, the sense of happiness, to feel calm. I really wanted that calm feeling at the time. I kept mumbling to myself, I'll leave everything behind. I'll just go with these clothes, nothing more. I'll go into the forest and live by picking fruits and vegetables, eating day by day. So I walked and sat, sitting for a long time, and my back hurt a lot, my legs hurt too. So I'd get up and walk around, just so my body could move and I could maintain my calm. When I was alone, nothing disturbed me. I was with my peace. I started to feel really good as I was with peace. I began to see peace as a solid thing, like a lump. I was embracing this lump of peace. Right now I was holding it, walking with peace, carrying it around with me. It was calm all the time. I was so pleased with it. I was playing with the feeling of calm and with the feeling of contentment. I was practicing calmness and contentment at that moment. I was playing with my emotions, but I didn't realize I was playing with them because I was still so ignorant at that time. Back then, people were always teaching these practices, and even now, it's the same. I was so ignorant back then. If someone with wisdom had come and just said a little something, just a little piece of wisdom like, do you know that you are playing with your emotions? Those emotions don't have a true self. The sound you're making, it doesn't have a self. Don't cling to it. What you know is not really you knowing, it's just knowing itself. Then I would have understood. If someone had pointed this out, I would have listened. When I was a foolish ascetic, I would have attained enlightenment long ago. It's so easy, but there was no wise teacher at that time. There was no Buddha's teaching. Back then I was just a foolish ascetic who only practiced with the body. I'd find a quiet place in the forest and eat fruit day by day, becoming weak and thin. So I thought to myself, I'm practicing austerities. Doesn't that sound good? Now I've been practicing austerities for a long time and my mind feels so calm. The emotions feel peaceful. I love this peaceful feeling. At that moment I was speaking to myself, playing with my thoughts. I was mumbling alone, walking in the cave, in the mountain crevice. I was walking back and forth, saying to myself, I've been practicing austerities for a long time. My mind is calm and peaceful. This calm emotion, it feels so comfortable. This emotion feels so good. I was playing with emotions. Why did I feel so happy? I wanted to say to myself, you fool, don't you know you're playing with the mental elements? You are stupid mind. At that time, what was my name? I couldn't remember my name. Back then, I must have been called Mr. Carrier. In those ancient times, I was known as Mr. Carrier. I was practicing austerities at that time. It didn't matter what age it was always the same. I wanted peace. I wanted peace. They said that if you stayed with peace, it would lead to enlightenment. I understood that this peace was the path to enlightenment. At that time, I had no wisdom. They said that if you continued in peace, wisdom would arise. I had the thought that if I became sick, I could enter peace. And in this peace, in this calm feeling, there would be no suffering. It would completely abandon the body, and in peace there would be no stories or pain. If we are in pain, we must enter this peaceful state. So I practiced the art of peace, maintaining this peace because I feared it would fade away. I believed that peace was something tangible, something real. Did you ever think that peace had substance like I did? I thought peace had substance because I was embracing it constantly at that time. As I speak now, do you see? If someone had told me, That sound you are making is just the mental elements. Don't play with it. It has no real substance. If I had heard that, I would have suddenly understood. I would have attained enlightenment long ago. But there was no one to teach me because I was ignorant. I was called Carrier. My name was Carrier back then. People would call, "Hey Carrier, come help with this," and I'd help carry things. I liked carrying things. At that time, while I was in the cave, I would walk, maintaining my peace, and I would mumble to myself, if I get sick, I'll just enter this peaceful state and I won't feel pain. I'll attain enlightenment. How comfortable this is. There's no suffering here. There's nothing to suffer from. It's living alone and there's nothing to worry about. It's escaping everything. It can't suffer. It lives alone. It has no burdens. It lives alone. It doesn't even wash its clothes, doesn't bathe, because we live simply. At that time I was Mr. Carrier. Mr. Carrier was ignorant. Then I practiced and reflected. This is called walking with wisdom, right? But no, at that time I was rushing with thoughts. I was playing with thoughts like, if I get sick, I'll just enter meditation. But that wasn't meditation, it was just peace. I was entering peace at that time. When I became peaceful, I wouldn't suffer from illness. If I stayed in peace long enough, when the body stopped working, I would no longer suffer. I would be completely free from suffering. I had to practice peace, so I walked and sat, sitting to remain peaceful, making sure nothing would take away my peace. I carried peace with me. I was playing with my own emotions. I was sitting alone, thinking alone, speaking alone, playing with emotions. I tried to maintain peace because I believed peace was something real. At that time I was ignorant. I believed peace had substance. I spoke for a long time. It was all thoughts, mental images and emotions. I was playing with the mental elements, but no one came to point this out or teach me. It continued like this until the last day when I entered peace and left this world. I then found myself in a state called Brahma. I was there, still ignorant, not knowing the sky from the earth, not knowing what wisdom was, not knowing anything at all. It was all just ignorance. This world only taught. This will pass through the ages just the same. We get caught in it, playing with emotions, seeking calmness. Then we change the name from calmness to meditation. Does that sound good? I changed the name to meditation. Does it sound better? It's just self-deception. What could be grand than deceiving oneself? In the end, we practice the path throughout our lives, reaching 80 years old, and we still haven't gained anything. The world is full of it. In the end, we still can't escape. We buy merit with money, buy the path and fruits of nirvana, create material objects filling the world, and then claim we've attained this and that. But what do we gain from it? The mind is an empty, clear and pure element. We get attached to the tools, to the names, to the knowing, to the thinking, to the sound of the speech. This is just the mental process. We get attached to the mental images, to the emotions. That's all there is. This is called avijja pakaya sankara, ignorance giving rise to formations because the mind doesn't know. Do you know what it's like to attain enlightenment? The one who attains enlightenment knows clearly in the mind when it cries and scolds itself, "Why was I so foolish?" It didn't know. Because it didn't know. Who would know that Dharma is this simple? It's actually very simple. There are many people who listen to my tape for just a short time and they attain the path. It's so easy. One day, one tip. They hear the sound of sadhu, a word of reverence, and everything shakes. The elements of the world explode and crumble. Everything becomes clear. They escape from being human and become pure elements again as they were. Afterward, they continue listening to my teachings because there is still much wisdom that we must understand. So, if you've attained enlightenment, don't think you're smart. There's still so much you don't know. Don't think that not being born again means you've finished and are now wise. You still need to cultivate wisdom because there are different levels of wisdom. We can call them arahants of blissful insight, teviso, kakupanya, and patisambhida. Even arahants are divided into 4 levels, and they still need to continue developing wisdom. Don't think that once you attain enlightenment, that's it. You're still ignorant in many ways. Then you keep climbing to the level of the Buddha's mind, reaching the Buddha state. When you reach that state, then you divide the levels of those who attain enlightenment further. If we think of it like this, a child, when they learn to walk and run, that is when they've attained enlightenment. Once they can walk and run, then they continue growing until old age, gathering more and more experience. In comparison, the Buddha is the one with the longest lifespan, the one who has aged and accumulated great knowledge. Compare that to a child who is just learning to walk and run. When a child learns to run, that is when they've attained enlightenment. But for that child to reach the Buddha stage, it will take a long time. Therefore, wisdom is divided into levels. It's called knowing all around for the sake of dismantling beings, for the sake of dismantling the minds and souls of all beings throughout the vast infinite universe and the three realms, to release them from the cycle of samsara. Our duty is just this. Don't think that after attaining enlightenment you can rejoice. What's there to rejoice about? The mind is still caught in vast attachment. Do you have the wisdom to dismantle it? No, you can't dismantle it. You don't even have the wisdom to dismantle it. That's why you must continue developing wisdom in the group of wisdom and liberation. The spirit of reverence, when we share the Dharma to lead others out of samsara, we will witness everything. It's not difficult. The question is whether we will do it or not. I have made a vow with my father and with the Buddha. I will dismantle everything, leaving nothing behind. I will take on the duty of my father. Therefore, this vow cannot be changed. It is one-pointed. It is only about dismantling. There is no other purpose. That is why those who join my group are those who are fully committed, those who are witnesses with all their hearts. Those who lack complete transcendent wisdom and fully developed spiritual powers cannot understand. To achieve enlightenment, we must set our intention with unwavering determination. It's like planning a journey to a distant place. We shouldn't say we'll go tomorrow, next month, or next year. Rather, we must decide to begin the journey now. Once we make that firm decision, the destination isn't far at all. But if we keep postponing, saying, I'll go later, we may wander through countless cycles without reaching it. When our mind firmly resolves to break free from the cycle of existence, it naturally strives to fully comprehend the nature of mental formations. Then suddenly, enlightened awareness can burst forth, liberating us from the bonds of conditioned consciousness. The mind must set the vow to be free from the cycle of samsara, which is the cycle of mental formations. It is the cycle of thinking and making mental constructs. We get caught in the world of mental formations, the world of elements, nothing more. The mind is an element of clarity, but it becomes attached to this sound, to these mental images, to these emotions, and to these acts of perception. It gets stuck right here. Dharma is this simple. If you can understand this much, it's finished. Do you see? It's through speech, speaking to help us understand the mind. Even though this sound is not really sound, and there is no one speaking like this, explaining it in this way to humans. Actually, it's just the mind stirring. I'm stirring as a form of knowledge, sending out waves to the minds for them to recognize. And then it ends. When will our minds understand that they are just mind, just empty, clear, and pure elements? When that happens, it's done. When it no longer clings to the mind's formations, that's the end. It's a transmission from mind to mind. In the end, it's just the mind communicating with the mind. There are no beings, no people, no self that arise in this world. What stirs is not sound, but humans fail to understand this. They cling to this thing and believe they are humans, and they believe this is sound. But that's okay. Therefore, we must gradually teach humans, slowly help them understand, because they believe they are human. To attain the Dharma, the mind must make a firm vow and remember. The power of merit will be fully realized now. This is how the vow must be made, and everyone must make it. Do you want to attain the Dharma? Attaining the Dharma means realizing that nothing is ours, nothing is self. Even the sound of speech is not us. When there is nothing left that belongs to us, even the knowing here is not our knowing. It knows by itself. When can this be understood? It will leave only the mind, which is an empty, clear, and pure element. Dharma is this simple. To make a vow in this way, we imagine the Buddha in front of us as millions of Buddhas. We kneel, join our palms, and bow to the Buddhas 3 times, then look up at the Buddhas while keeping our palms joined. Let this image remain always in our mind. We ask that all the Buddhas witness us from this moment onward. We will listen to this Dharma, awaken to the mind, see the thoughts, the perceptions, the emotions, and understand that these are simply natural phenomena, not us, not ours. We will no longer be foolish and attached to thoughts, perceptions, and emotions. This act of knowing is decisive because it is suffering the cycle of birth that has no end, no resolution. I will not be born again. This will be the last life. I ask all the Buddhas to witness. Once I have realized this truth, I will teach it to my children from the age of 4 onwards, and to all those I know. I will spread this knowledge to all sentient beings in the vast infinite universe, so they too can awaken and attain the Dharma. I will guide all to awaken from within. Do not foolishly cling to thoughts. Do not foolishly cling to mental images. Do not foolishly cling to emotions. Do not foolishly cling to acts of perception. For all of this is suffering. All of this is the cycle of samsara. All of this is birth without end or resolution. When you do not cling, birth will cease. This will be the last life for all of us. May we all realize this truth. May we all attain the Dharma immediately. I offer this knowledge to the Buddha, the fully awakened one, until my last breath. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us set our intention in this way every day, teaching our minds daily. When the mind sets its determination, it will be fulfilled. Some will set this determination and tears will flow. They will cry, trembling all over. Why? Because their spiritual power is reaching fullness. Those who dare to set this determination will quickly fill with strength and attain the Dharma rapidly, not more than 7 days or 7 months. Truly, I can tell you it won't take longer than a month, not more than 7 days. But if one is foolish, it will take many months. It's that simple. Because everything I have taught is the Dharma of mindfulness, the foundation of awareness, which is the principle of awakening within, known as the foundation of mindfulness. Whoever listens to this Dharma, who sees the Dharma within the Dharma, who understands that what I point to is to show you the Dharma in all things, and the nature of not-self within conditioned phenomena, will certainly attain the truth. 1,000,000%, it's a simple principle. Take anatta, non-self, as your refuge. Focus on this one principle, anatta. Don't cling to the idea of accumulating merit as the world teaches, or strive for peace by engaging with the tranquil feelings of meditation, the calmness that we construct. All those feelings, all of them are just feelings. Why hold on to them? Before the Buddha's teachings, I too was lost like this in the past. I sat practicing peace, playing with calm emotions until I realized I gained nothing from this world. What were we clinging to? The Dharma is about wisdom, about awakening in the mind, about seeing the nature of non-self in all conditioned phenomena. This is the Dharma. This is Buddhism, the act of pointing out to all sentient beings in the vast universe. Don't foolishly cling to the mind's conditioning. Don't foolishly cling to the elements of name and form. They are merely tools of the mind. We point out that the sound of speaking, does it have any self? Can it be grasped? Can you see that this sound is just a vibration arising from the mind's pure emptiness? Can you see it has no self? This voice speaks constantly in the mind. Can you see it? It keeps talking this and that continuously. Can you see it? If you don't foolishly cling to it, the mind will be empty, clear, light. Don't cling to these mental images. Don't cling to the emotions. If you don't cling, it will be spacious, light and free. It will release from the sense of self. Let the mind think what it will. Let it imagine what it will. Let it have whatever emotions it has. When it arises, it will end immediately. As long as we don't grasp it, it ends. Every time we grasp an emotion, it's like we're feeding it with a pipe. Then the emotion will grow and continue to work. It never ends. It goes on forever. If we engage with the thoughts or the voice that speaks in our minds, if we dwell on the sound, the mental images, or the emotions, it's like the mind is feeding them. Once it nourishes these sensations, they ripple and ripple continuously year after year. We end up with stress, anxiety, migraines, cancer, and all kinds of ailments, constantly being shaped and molded by these processes until we become stressed and unable to sleep. Think about it. If we simply see the harm, we would see dukkha, suffering. All of these are harmful, dangerous, and burdensome. They are hot, heavy, and oppressive. This is what it means to awaken to the truth within the aggregates, to awaken to the conditioning of the mind itself. The mental formations create everything. These formations, these sounds carry meaning in themselves. They create everything. They give meaning to the fact that we are hearing now, but the sound itself isn't someone hearing it. It is simply an occurrence, a function of awareness. This awareness has no shape. It knows in its own way like waves rippling around the edge of the mind. The mind itself is pure, clear, like a core at the edge of consciousness. There's a ripple of awareness caused by the sound interacting with the mind. The mind ripples and becomes aware, and this ripple continues, making understanding. Notice how the mind already understands this language. We don't need to force understanding. It understands already. It hears, it perceives, it knows. Without us needing to train mindfulness or listen to a tape, it knows all the time. Do you see? The Dharma is this simple. Wisdom is just a matter of observation. What we know, it knows on its own. What speaks on its own. Where are we in this? This is wisdom. Wisdom is when the mind sees this truth. It's not something you get after hearing and saying, I understand. Observe who truly understands. Do you see that the act of understanding isn't actually us understanding? It's just a phenomenon. It doesn't leave any sense of us. If we truly understand the Dharma, tears will flow. It will be light, spacious. It will click and the tears will fall. Then it will feel light, spacious, and the understanding continues until there's a sense of release from this voice. Understanding unfolds even as we drive, clean the house, eat, do laundry, take a shower. We can achieve awakening at any moment. It's not about sitting still in meditation and claiming to be enlightened. It's not about that. True awakening is when the mind sees the truth and releases from the conditioning, creating understanding. The mind understands that the voice speaking is not us. It's not even the sound. The thoughts are not us. The emotions are not us. And it's not anyone else either. What is knowing is simply something else. There is nothing real or permanent about it. It releases into the pure, empty, clear element free from self, and there is no us left. Inside there's no shape, no form of self, but it is us. It's the real us, the one without form. We are the mind. We are the pure, empty, clear element. We are the living element with no shape. We never had form. We are the element that is clear, merging with the entire universe. This fundamental nature of Dharma, this element, is everything. It knows everything, but it no longer holds on to that knowledge. It uses learning, it uses tools to learn, but it doesn't attach any importance to what it learns. It only seeks to understand what it truly is. It learns that everything is not itself, and eventually it realizes that it is an element of pure, empty clarity. Once the mind understands that it is an element of pure, empty clarity, it knows everything. When we have perfect insight, we know everything. But what does it mean to know everything? It means knowing that everything is not anything. It knows everything, but it knows that everything is empty. It sees all phenomena as anatta, not self, including itself. This purity is the essence of the entire universe. It creates both the elements of name and form. It is everything. Our mind is an element of beauty, clean and pure, filled with a very fine and dense energy. It can be called the knowledge of wisdom, the wisdom that is the very essence of Buddhahood. It is a knowledge that knows everything, but does not cling to anything. Once it uses that knowledge, it lets go. It uses the awareness and then moves on. It uses the ripples of knowledge and then moves on. It uses the ripple as knowledge and then moves on. It is a natural state that does not hold on to any phenomena. It remains pure, without going or coming, without birth or death, without light or darkness, without good or bad, merit or demerit. It means we were never human and we never came into existence on this world. When we listen to this Dharma teaching more and more, the principle is simple. Everyone, children, the elderly, the disabled, men and women can achieve awakening 100% because we all have mind. Remember this. Listen to my teachings, listen a lot. It won't take long. We just need to understand that we should not be foolish enough to cling to the sound that we are constantly hearing. Don't be foolish enough to cling to the sound. Don't be foolish enough to cling to the mental images. Don't be foolish enough to cling to the emotions that arise. Don't be foolish enough to cling to the awareness of what is perceived. See clearly that these phenomena work by themselves. They arise now and they dissolve now by themselves. No one owns them. You don't need to try to see them arise and fade, nor try to make them fade. They arise by themselves and fade by themselves. It is like we are pure emptiness, sitting and watching nature, watching the wind as it blows and passes by on its own. We don't need to want the wind to pass, it passes by itself. We sit and watch the rain fall and stop on its own. We don't need to want the rain to stop, it stops by itself. Thoughts, images, emotions, any awareness that arises, let them ripple. Let them appear for the mind to know. Let these natural phenomena perform their functions. Just observe and notice that there is nothing here that belongs to us. Ask your heart often, is there anything that is me? When the mind accepts it, tears will fall, and there will be a lightness and clarity. We will break free from the sense of being a person. We will know that we are done as if waking up from sleep. We will know that we are awake. It will be very clear, and we will no longer feel like a person. But we will still interact with things, though there will be no sense of ourself interacting. What is being spoken here has no speaker, and this is not a sound. There is no one listening. It is very clear. It remains pure like this throughout the entire span of infinity. It exists in every moment of the mind. When practicing the Dharma, there is nothing gained, no wealth, no possessions, no sense of self. There is only this, to declare the truth on behalf of my Father. For I have made a vow with my Father to guide all beings out of the cycle of samsara throughout the three realms of existence. No being will have to cycle in samsara again. I will take on the role of the Buddhas themselves. I will take full responsibility in place of my Father. There is no such thing as impossible. If others do not do it, I will do it myself. Thus I gathered my friends in the group to break free from the cycle of birth and death with full hearts, feeling proud that this life has been worth living. We have seen and understood things we never thought we could know, we never thought we could realize. We have seen the beauty of the Buddhas for ourselves. This is the true Buddha Dharma. It is about guiding the minds of all beings throughout the infinite universe and the three realms of existence out of samsara once and for all. When speaking the Dharma, make it simple, so the listener understands instantly and attains realization. Speak directly to the essence, speak directly to the mind, pointing to the truth of anatta, non-self. Everything I have spoken, don't cling to it. I am not teaching you to memorize or to think. Let the mind accept. Once the mind accepts, it is finished. Now, who is hearing the sound? Are they hearing it for themselves? They don't need to practice mindfulness, right? If they hear it, they know it for themselves. Then where are we? Let the mind answer. Let today's Dharma end here. May all of us who have firmly vowed not to be reborn, whose goal is nirvana, and who take anatta as our refuge, may we realize the truth and attain awakening swiftly and immediately. May all beings without exception achieve it. May the Buddhas of all realms be witnesses to this vow. From this moment onward, I will diligently listen to the Dharma, remain awake within, and see thoughts, emotions, and all phenomena of awareness as natural processes, not as me or mine. I will not cling to any of them. I will not be born again. This life will be my last. Once I have realized the truth, I will teach my children, grandchildren, and acquaintances to awaken within themselves, not clinging to thoughts, emotions, or perceptions until the last breath as an offering to the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.